Hello, cottage crew. This feels so awkward to say since I'm Cottage Corners and I am back temporarily. Yep, I am back temporarily. Like, it feels awkward coming back since I haven't made a video for like months or felt like years, man. It just feels so awkward to like get back into like this situation despite like still overcoming my mental health issues, but like getting better, and I don't want to waste it now that I have some free time to actually do this without being laughed at or being insulted or something like that. Like, I don't feel comfortable since, like, the reason why I left is because, like, even when I came back, I thought I came back, but yeah, my parents have control over this channel to the point where it's not really mine anymore, so that's why I just stopped, and now I'm back, but only just for this one video since, like, this experience is, like, really important and it's really sad, so yeah, I'm gonna just risk it all. Like, I'm not coming back permanently. This is only temporarily. I was originally gonna come back permanently, but whoops, I don't want to explain why, so this is only temporarily. This is all you're gonna get, okay? God, I hate this blade so much, so yep, I'm back, and where do I begin? I mean, it's story time with Cottage Corners. Oh, I freaking hate this channel. But before it begins, I want this video to be short just in case I run out of room for unknown reasons. Don't ask. Just in case if I forget to mention anything, since like this trip was like really, like, nobody understands how horrible, like, and like I'm gonna say this later that, like, I'm gonna bring this up back at the end that, my mom says that, it's what you make of it, and it's your fault that you didn't enjoy this trip, and you should have put yourself out there, and so, like, we're gonna talk about that later and how it affected me, and how, again, I want my effects of wanting to be normal because of what she said, that it was my fault that this all happened. So, like, just in case, I got my little cheat sheet over here, just in case I forget to mention anything that was necessary that what happened. So, like, it really affected me in, was it 8th grade? Yeah. So, yeah, this was back in early June of 2019. I'm hungry. Sorry about that. I am back, and boy, were those good chicken nuggets. So, back to where we was at. The infamous New York City trip, which, like, my parents knows that, I had a terrible time there, and, like, they don't know the full story of it. Okay, so like I said in the thumbnail, I mean in the title, I said in the title, so, like, we're gonna be dealing about serious topics about ableism and fake friends, so, I mean, those aren't, like, there's more serious topics out there than those two, but, like, just a fair warning that if you're sensitive to, like, hearing those topics, or, you don't want to hear those topics, or either that, or you're more interested in hearing this story, then, like, just a fair warning that we're going to be dealing with ableism and fake friends. So, yeah, if you don't feel comfortable about those two topics, then leave, because if you're sensitive to those two topics, then, leave this video, because it's just going to get way more deeper. And nobody knew how this hurts. Or, when I always think about if I'm actually, like that. So, yeah, sensitive to those topics, then there's the door. Okay, so now that I'm a little bit more situated with all this stuff, like just a sec, since I need to be used to being back on videos. So again, this is only temporarily. Let's start this story. So, like, this New York City trip happened like early June of 2018. I was 12 years old at the time, and like the worst part about this all is that it's not like is that I did not want to go to this trip in the first place. Like, I did not want to go to this trip. Like, I was being serious. Like, I told my parents that I did not want to go to this trip. Like, even before it actually happened, I know that was gonna be a terrible time because, number one, I am a country girl, and like I consider myself to be a country girl, and I do not like the city situation. Like New York City isn't my type of place. I prefer camping than being out there in the city because just New York City isn't my type of place. Okay. And so, like I said, I didn't want to go to New York City in the first place. Like, even before I knew it was going to be a hell of a time and not in a good way. But, they just, say, just do it because, like, my parents were going to New Orleans at the time and, just taking me and my sister to New York City and saying that, I'll never have this experience ever again. And so, like that was already a ways. Like I had no choice but to go to New York City, even though I have no friends and like even when we're like deciding on our roommates, it's like I barely know anybody. So yeah, like me personally, New York City was not my type of trip, and I did not want to go. And well, it's like surprising how this isn't like one of those trips like for example in cartoons when like this person who doesn't want to go and whines about it but then actually ends up having a good time. Like no, I did not want to go and I did not have a good time. I mean, like again, like I point out some highlights over here, but like overall, like especially at the end of the trip, it was just a nightmare came to life. Like my eyes just open to like just everything. Like as terrible as that New York City trip was, it actually got my eyes open to like the reason why people treat me the way that they do and try to like sugarcoat everything. And again, like just so you guys don't know, I am on the autism spectrum, and it affects the way you it affects the way you communicate socially or behaviorally. It's a developmental disorder that again, like this just like Vietnam flashbacks came to life. Like, but anyways, keeping focused. So, the autism spectrum disorder is a developmental disorder that affects with the way you think or your social behaviors or just behaviorally. And people with the spectrum, they don't act the same. Like some are functional and some are high functional and some are low functioning. Like high functioning or low functioning. I am high functioning, even though I used to be low functioning, like back in kindergarten, which is how they treated me back there in the trip. Like I try like again, like this is really like hurting me, but I can try. But I'll try my best to like make this video as funny as possible. Especially like this one joke I have, not only but my long legs, but also we're gonna get to that joke later. Since like I'm not trying to like be all moody and depressed. I'll try shaky things up, bring some color to this dark story. So can we actually get to the story? So before the trip ever happened, we had to like choose like on a piece of paper, who we want our roommates to be. It has to be someone who is actually going on the trip. And so I was just stuck, not even choosing a roommate since I did not want to go in the first place, and I felt like I did not know anybody since I have no friends and I still don't. So I was just stuck with whoever, I guess. I don't know. again, because I had no friends. And so it like mostly came to a surprise of me on like who my roommates was, since again I felt like I did not know anybody. So like I was arranged, like everything was arranged for me, like quick, like the trip was arranged, the roommates were arranged, just everything was arranged for me. Like the lack of freedom, man. This is why I quit YouTube, because of lack of freedom. And so here comes the surprise of my roommates, which I'm only going to like say that like only the first name only one time. Their real first names only one time. Even though I don't remember what their last names were, but I did not want to get any of those attention. So like I'm only gonna mention their first name only once. So their names I'm only going to say this once is Chloe and Mara. And the things about those girls is that, I knew who these girls were before the trip ever happened. And, they knew me and I knew them before the trip ever happened. Like, especially since one of the girls went to my elementary school while the other only went to my middle school. But, we had science class in sixth grade and math class in seventh grade. So, I mean, so like, it wasn't really, that awkward since like I mean, with mom, I, I forgot I was only gonna say her name once, but with the girl who go to my elementary school, like we had no class together, but somehow she knew me and I knew her mainly because like in elementary school we went to speech class, but it was only in first and second grade. But then she grew out of her speech, and so I'm still stuck in that class, and so yeah, so I knew who these girls were before, and they knew me. But like the main thing about those two is that like I didn't know them enough. Like I did not know them enough since like we were mostly like acquaintances at times. Like there wasn't really that much of a connection. Like I just knew them and that's it. So like this trip just opened my eyes to like what type of people they were. Like I didn't know them enough until that trip. So like before the trip, and as in before the trip, this means like we're about to get in the bus and just go to New York City. So like that before, like that close before, like when we got all our bags and we're waiting on the bus. My mom always try to like put a positive spin in it, and it's like if you put yourself out there and just be as funny as you are with us, since I'm the comedian of my family. And I tried to do that at first. Like I once imagined me like fun fact, I once imagined me like getting off the bus, even though I didn't did this in real life, since again I was like too scaredy. But I just imagined myself standing up and be like, who's excited for this trip? But I didn't do that because again I was scared. And like I don't even know why I get so quiet around people, but when it's around my family, I feel, or my parents, or or I feel more comfortable when I spoken out, including right now in YouTube. Like I feel more comfortable talking than in front of other people who I barely know, or other kids basically. That's why I have no friends. And while again, like this is at the parking lot, we were starting to like go on the trip. I saw the two girls. Again, I only mentioned their names once, so I saw the two girls, talking and standing next to each other. And so I thought like I was still with my parents, so I thought if they hopefully. I mean, I hope they thought, they saw this joke that I made, since I was hoping, they could, like, get to know the funny side of me, by, viewing, like, how I act, how I act when I'm in my funny mood. And I don't know if they actually saw it, but, I just hoped I did back then. I was 12. I'm gonna mention that more times, how, I was 12 years old at the time. And so that's how I remember, like, one of the jokes I made. Like, I forgot exactly what it was, but, it was something about, like, it was a joke about me roasting my mom about, how, her bike, I don't know, it's just something about my mom and my bike, her bike. And, like, I think I remember it being, like, how, her bike is so old that, probably because she barely rides it. It's something like that. I forgot the whole roast, but it was something about my mom and her bike. That's all I remembered. My mom and her bike, it's so old. And so I think I remember my dad being like, oh, and so I was hoping like they will notice that, notice how, funny I am, since like my nana says this all the time, that I'm like the comedian of my family, and I make jokes in front of them, even though I don't really make jokes in front of other people. But I'm hoping those girls I saw, how comedic I can be. And so I thought, maybe if they saw that, saw how I roasted my mom on her bike, and she barely rides it and it's old. Again, I forgot the details. Then maybe we can actually really be friends. Start talking to each other normally, and we can be real friends. And so I thought I had like the same mindset as my mom, as like we can actually be friends. If they see like this, social and funny side of me, and we can actually start talking to each other normally, and not look like we're just arranged, and this could like be normally, and like we can actually be real friends if they saw this side of me. And so I hope they saw that. I don't really know, but yeah. So I had the same mindset as my mom. Thinking positively, like we can actually be friends. Also, because my nana says this all the time, like I'm like the comedian of my family, and so if they see like this side of me making jokes and stuff, then they could probably like get to know the real me, and again we can actually be normal friends. Just giving them a chance. And so, like once the bus comes, that's when, me and my sister, did I forget to mention that my sister was in this trip as well? Because my sister was in this trip as well. I forgot to mention that, which would be necessary for, like what happened at the end of the trip, since, my sister would be a part of this, and I really don't want her to get in trouble for, her being a bystander. And okay, I'm already spoiling it, so, like, but to wait for that in the end.